I've been watching football on television since 2002, and 3 semesters ago, I signed up for PE 185, which is football defense right here. I signed up because I wanted to train like an animal and be treated like a dog at times. I did not care about playing the game because I knew I did not have the skill to play. But as the semester went along, my knowledge of the game grew. The NFL and television networks have capitalized for years on bull crushing hits they are now forbidding. They recently ended their Jacked Up program in 2006, which showed a lot of great hits being given. Recently, there has been some controversy of helmet-to-helmet hits in the NFL. This policy has been around for years and is not being enforced harshly. I would like to point out why the helmet-to-helmet policy is not that effective. It can cause serious injury to a defensive back. It also brings more parity to the game, and the hits that are being given are not being overlooked by football people. According to Matt Higgins, a columnist wrote an article about football physics, which stated that a defensive back can run up to a speed of 40 miles per hour and can tackle with a force of 1,600 pounds, which is amazing. And an offensive player can change slight directions in 0.5 seconds. You don't need to be an Einstein to realize that the defensive back can have serious neck injury if he, at full speed, suddenly decides to tilt his neck or stop suddenly. Since both players are going at full speed, it is impossible to predict where the hit is actually going to occur. The laws of physics won't allow it. The NFL says that you should tackle with your shoulder, not your helmet, but that is impossible to predict where you're going to tackle since your head is a couple inches away from your shoulder. So if you're going at full speed, it's impossible to know exactly where you're going to hit. You can avoid these helmet-to-helmet hits by not going at full speed, but that wouldn't be NFL, right? And if you try to be too perfect on a tackle, you might miss the other player because you're going at full speed. I just told you about that why it is impossible to predict where you're going to hit another player if you're going at full speed. So that shows that the policy is not that effective. The next part, I would like to tell you that about the parity of the NFL. There is a quote by Ernie Ball that states that too much of a good thing can be bad. I searched him, and he is a philosopher. Since this policy has been effective, there have been slightly less dominant teams on defense compared to last year. Last year there was the Cowboys and the Ravens, but now this year nobody knows what dominant team there is. And the first couple of games this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they seem to be like, oh, the best team in the NFL. Who is going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl? It was because the Steelers had their dominant defense. They had like James Harrison in the field making these amazing hits. But now that he has been fined a couple of grand, they're not being that dominant. And these so-called experts on ESPN said that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to go to the Super Bowl, right? Now that the defense is not that dominating, they're changing their minds to the Green Bay Packers, the Patriots. They don't know what they're talking about. And now that the policy is being effective more harshly with punishment, more teams like the Buffalo Bills or the Carolina Panthers seem to be in full competition with the other dominant teams. Like probably 2 weeks ago, the Buffalo Bills were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they took them to overtime. This shouldn't be happening in the NFL because they're the Buffalo Bills and they're the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers should just impose their will at the beginning of the game. So when the game starts, they should just punch. Basically, they should just punch the Buffalo Bills in the mouth and show them that this is going to be a really hard game to play. And now that the defenses in the NFL can't oppose their will, the game is not being played like it's supposed to be played at all. Yes, there has been a couple of blowouts and a couple of shutouts, which you're probably are thinking, well, the defense is dominating the games, right? But the recent shutouts that are the New York Jets and the Green Bay Packers. Well, the Jets were shut out for the whole game, even though they had like a bye week to prepare. They were shut out because they're not that disciplined. And on October, too much offense is an AFL thing, not a football thing. I mean, arena football league. Not that I told you why there's a lot of parity in the NFL. I believe that this is happening because the defenses are not that dominating anymore, and eventually it's going to continue this way. So more teams are going to get involved, and we're going to miss out on great football, which consists of maybe like 17-0, a defense like the Ravens of 2001 taking over the game and dominating the game. Another reason why the policy is ineffective, I believe, is that the tackles that are being made in the game, they're being overlooked by a person named Ryan Anderson, which he is the NFL Vice President of Operations. And I did my research on him, and I couldn't find out that he was a former NFL player. And I want to quote Roy Romanowski that quoted Matt Millen, and he said that these football people, the NFL needs football people to be making football decisions on the tackle lane. And I would agree with that because on October 31st, there was a game of the New England Patriots and the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings were in the goal line. They were 3rd and goal, and Brett Favre was wanting to score a touchdown to get to the game. And I don't know who it was, but there was a defensive player from the Patriots where the play started. Brett Favre was going to rush into the end zone, but accidentally the defensive player hit Brett Favre in the helmet with the helmet. But he wasn't intentionally hitting him. He wasn't looking because when the play starts, everybody's going very fast, and there's no way that you can tell who's hitting who. And a week later, he was fined $15,000 for a hit that was not intentional, but it was helmet hit. So yes, he did hit him with the helmet, but it was not intentionally. So his policy is not that good. In conclusion, I would like to rephrase what I just said about the NFL policy is not that effective because it is impossible to know where someone else is going to hit somebody else when you're going at full speed, and because there's a lot of parity in the NFL now because of the harsh punishment that is being given, and these defensive players are afraid to make a good hit because they don't want to get fined. And the other reason, because football people are making football decisions. Yeah, I know the NFL hired this Ray Anderson, but it would be better off if you had former players making these football decisions of what is a good tackle and what is not a good tackle. They have better knowledge of the game, and I'm sure they know what they're talking about. Or hire like Hall of Famers. And in conclusion, I'm sure that 007 would agree that this is big boy football. And if you're afraid to getting hit, you shouldn't be playing football at all. So, thank you all.
So, Joe, what did you think? I liked it. I think it was your best speech so far, definitely. It wasn't maybe the most entertaining of your speeches so far, but it was the best speech you've given so far. And I like that it was a current issue that is happening right now. You had week-to-week information. And I thought it was fairly structured. You had your intro, and then you kind of had your sections of the speech that were clear and defined. And I like that you kept it, or you